In 48 hours, John and Beth are gone. In a way, John and Beth are my inspiration for finally purchasing my ocean-going vessel. They invited me to join them as crew around Vancouver Island, and again to Glacier Bay National Park in Alaska. That was my first taste of open ocean and adventure boating. Between our two boats, we have logged thousands of miles together. We have significant complementary experiences. My replacement crew? Old friend I met in high school who's never tied a boat line in his life. The past week in Inverness was frustrating because John and Beth have a plane to catch and the wind kept us pinned to the dock. We were stuck, and the clock was ticking. I felt like I really needed their help to make it to the other side of the canal. I was having big doubts at this point. To stay sane, I invented errands to do to keep me occupied. One of those errands led to the Inverness Coffee Company. They have some of the best, freshest roasted coffee beans I have ever had. A must on board Zee Otter. Another errand turned out to be worth all the bitterballen in the Netherlands. On one of my walks, I passed the outdoor store. I was curious and went inside. As I perused throughout the store, I spotted 2 Turn Compact folding bikes for more than 50% off. It felt like destiny. After my big boat purchase, I wasn't ready to buy anything that I deemed unnecessary. After much consideration, I paid for them, but they needed some fine-tuning and wouldn't be ready to be picked up for a few days. On June 6th, the weather window opened. Before we left, I did the usual. Made coffee, checked the oil, checked the coolant, plotted the course. We untied the lines and reached the Clachnahary Sea Loch around 9:30 in the morning. This is where we leave saltwater and enter freshwater.
Welcome to the canal. You've made it in. I've got for you here the actual license and the most important bit, the facilities key for the toilets and showers all the way through the canal. And you just keep that with you and you'll hand it back out when you go out the other end. And then we should be able to get you up to Loch Ness today, no problem. Fort Augustus is a nice place to stop for the night and there's loads of pontoon space on the starboard side. I'll give Muirton Locks a call, check when they're next going up. But the railway bridge up here is open. I'm just waiting for the signal for the next lockkeeper to be ready and then I'll open the gates. We'll send you straight up, starboard side.
Once through the first 2 locks, we pulled into the fuel dock. While I topped off the diesel, John hurried off to pick up the bikes. They were ready to be picked up just in the nick of time. John assured me he would be back swiftly. Timing was critical because we were next to enter the locks, and I was told we needed to be ready very shortly. What's more, another boat was already hovering, waiting for my spot at the fuel dock. After I filled up, I went to the office and started to pay. I stalled as long as I could. I needed John on board. I was so relieved when I saw him. He was riding one bike, and the shop tech was riding the other. Perfect timing. We placed the bikes on board and departed. While we were stuck in Inverness, I also took care of a few things. I added 200 feet more line to my anchor chain. Zee Otter came with about 100 feet of chain. Your anchor isn't just for overnighting or picnicking, it's also an emergency brake. Beth helped me splice it. She treats splicing like an art project. For me, it's peace of mind. I once owned a 60-footer and it was easy to single hand. This boat is new to me, and even though it's not as big, it's an aft cabin, and I'm still learning how to go solo. It will happen in time, and I have a plan to help expedite that reality. I'll tell you how in a future video. But for now, I'm grateful for all my crew. And thankfully, my buddy Rod from high school is up for the challenge. He's a greenhorn and enthusiastic and made arrangements to fly out with a week's notice. And he's willing to drop everything and come find me wherever I end up next. The Caledonian Canal is one of the most ambitious inland navigation projects ever attempted in Britain. And what makes it remarkable isn't just that it exists, but that it still functions largely as designed over 2 centuries ago. The canal runs roughly 60 miles across Scotland, cutting through the Great Glen Fault line from coast to coast. What surprises many people is that less than half of the canal is actually dug by hand. The rest consists of natural freshwater lochs, primarily Loch Lochy, Loch Oich, and Loch Ness, that were adapted and connected to form a continuous navigable route. The project was designed by Thomas Telford, one of the leading engineers of the Industrial Revolution. Construction began in 1803 and took nearly 20 years, finally opening in 1822. At the time, the canal was intended to serve both commercial shipping and naval traffic, providing a safer alternative to the dangerous passage around the north coast of Scotland. Funding came primarily from the British government, motivated by economic development in the Highlands and strategic military considerations following the Jacobite uprisings. The canal was meant not only to move ships, but also to stimulate employment and trade in a region that had suffered depopulation and economic decline. From a financial standpoint, the canal was controversial almost from the start. By the time it opened, ships had already begun to outgrow the original loch dimensions. Commercial traffic never reached the levels originally projected, and revenue consistently fell short of expectations. In purely economic terms, the canal struggled to justify its cost. Over the years, it required repeated public investment to maintain and modernize, shifting its role gradually from commercial artery to mixed use. Despite that, the engineering itself proved sound. The canal operates almost entirely on gravity and natural water supply. Freshwater is fed into the system from surrounding lochs, rivers, and rainfall. The summit level, near Loch Oich, acts as a reservoir, supplying water to both the eastern and western sections. Each loch cycle releases water downhill towards sea level, which means water management is central to canal operations, especially during dry periods. This is one reason loch usage is carefully scheduled and coordinated. The lochs themselves are traditional chamber locks built of stone with iron gates. Most are still manually operated, assisted by hydraulics in some locations. There are 29 lochs in total, lifting vessels approximately 35 meters, or about 115 feet, from sea level to the canal's highest point. One of the most notable engineering features is Neptune's staircase, an 8-loch flight designed to move boats efficiently through a steep elevation change. It remains the longest loch staircase in Britain, and a clear example of early 19th century hydraulic design. Maintenance of the canal has been an ongoing challenge. Because the canal relies on aging stonework, metal gates, and constant exposure to fresh water, vegetation, and weather, upkeep is continuous. Over time, responsibility for the canal has shifted between government bodies, and today it is managed by Scottish Canals, a public corporation. Funding still comes largely from public sources, supplemented by transit fees and tourism-related revenue. In recent decades, the canal has undergone modernization, not to increase speed or capacity, but to preserve functionality. Lock gates have been replaced or reinforced. Dredging has been undertaken to maintain depth, and operational procedures have been refined to balance water conservation with navigation demands. What makes the Caledonian Canal unique today is that it represents engineering built for permanence, not efficiency. It was designed to last, to be repairable, and to work with natural systems rather than overpower them. Its continued operation is less about profit and more about heritage, infrastructure stewardship, and adaptive reuse. In that sense, the canal is less a relic of the past and more a working example of how large-scale engineering can remain relevant when its purpose evolves. The legend of the Loch Ness Monster, often known as Nessie, is one of the most enduring myths in modern folklore, and its roots stretch back more than 1,000 years. The earliest written account dates to the year 565. According to a biography of St. Columba, the monk encountered a water beast while traveling near the river Ness. The creature was said to have attacked a swimmer before retreating. While the story is clearly shaped by religious symbolism, it established an early association between the loch and a dangerous, unknown presence beneath the water. For centuries after that, reports were sporadic. Local stories passed through oral tradition, rarely written down, and largely confined to the highlands. The legend existed, but it remained regional rather than global. That changed in the early 20th century. In 1933, a new road was built along the northern shore of Loch Ness, dramatically increasing visibility and access. Almost immediately, sightings increased. Witnesses reported seeing large moving humps, long necks, and disturbances in the water that couldn't be easily explained. The legend reached its peak in 1934 with the publication of the so-called surgeon's photograph. The image appeared to show a long neck and head rising from the loch, and was widely accepted as proof for decades. Much later, it was revealed to be a hoax, but by then, Nessie had already become embedded in popular culture. Several characteristics of Loch Ness itself helped sustain the mystery. The loch is exceptionally deep, over 230 meters in places, and contains dark, peat-stained water with extremely low visibility. Natural wave patterns, floating debris, and temperature-driven currents can create optical illusions that make objects appear to move independently. Scientific investigations over the years have offered rational explanations, ranging from misidentified animals to wave phenomena. In 2018, a comprehensive DNA study found no evidence of unknown large species, though it did confirm a significant eel population, leading some to speculate that unusually large eels may have contributed to early sightings. Despite repeated investigations, the legend persists. That's because the Loch Ness Monster isn't just a question of evidence. It's a story shaped by place, history, and human imagination. Nessie represents the idea that some mysteries remain unsolved, even in an age of satellites, sonar, and genetic testing. Whether viewed as folklore, misinterpretation, or cultural myth, the legend of the Loch Ness Monster has become inseparable from the loch itself, an enduring symbol of mystery that continues to capture attention more than a millennium after it first appeared in writing. And then, finally, after a year of dreaming, we entered Loch Ness. I expected to feel excitement. What I felt was relief. The ruins overlooking Loch Ness are known as Urquhart Castle, and they represent more than 1,500 years of conflict, power struggles, and shifting control in the Scottish Highlands. The site was first fortified in the early Middle Ages, possibly as far back as the 6th century. Wind was blowing about 20 knots. The ride was comfortable. Unfortunately, we did not see Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. After about a 3-hour cruise on Loch Ness, we tied up in Fort Augustus. What a sweet place! Ahead of us was a ladder of 5 consecutive locks. And even with that July 9th deadline that's still looming, I felt energized. Next week, the journey continues through the canal. Until then, wishing you and yours all the best.